Hello, my name is Gabriella Davini. I'm a freshman at Bloomsburg University and a languages and cultures major. Today I will talk to you on the topic of the Uyghur genocide in Xinjiang. I'm interested in this topic as I'm very curious about the many minority groups within mainland China and how the government's treatment of its people can affect the whole world, such as other minorities on a global scale and world production, and what this can mean for our economies. Let's first look at the context of this issue and how it came to be. Over the last few years, many reports of abuses made by Chinese authorities onto the Uyghur people in Xinjiang have surfaced. The Uyghur people are a minority in China made up of 12 million. The majority of these people are Muslim. So, what is China's main cause of targeting the Uyghurs? It is the very fact that they are Muslim. China is very quick to turn its head to any human rights abuses, especially that of religious human rights abuses. They are known to not be avid supporters of freedom of religion. Next, let's look at the history of the issue. Xinjiang was acquired in 1949 under the PRC, previously known as East Turkestan. In 1955, Xinjiang becomes an autonomous region, meaning the region, to some degree, has self-governance under the national government. It was important to China at the time to keep hold on Xinjiang for its various natural resources. Starting in the 1990s, the fights for independence began as China starts to strengthen its hold on Xinjiang. Continuing on through the next decades, the Uyghur people will come to experience many wrongdoings done onto them, especially with their freedoms of expression and religion in the name of China's war on terrorism, and most importantly, their fears of separatism and extremism, something rooted into the Chinese culture. Fast forwarding to 2016, Xi Jinping places an estimated 1 to 2 million Uyghurs into re-education camps. They are forced to renounce their beliefs and fall into line with that of standard Chinese. Today, these re-education camps still exist for the Uyghur people. Failure to submit means imprisonment. However, this isn't even the extent to which the Chinese have went with their abuses. Among others include sterilizing Uyghur women, removing children from their families, forced labor, and more. These abuses are made in attempts to squash their culture and ideology, and even hinder their population growth. Even amidst pushback worldwide and complaints made on China's abuses, only some re-education camps have closed as recently. And the wrongfully imprisoned Uyghurs put there under convictions of terrorism have not been let go. In more recent decades, China has even tried to prevent Uyghurs from celebrating or partaking in standard practices of Ramadan, a big part of the Muslim faith. So, what's at stake? The continuation and bloodline of the Uyghur people. As I mentioned previously, with the sterilization of many Uyghur women within re-education camps, birth rates are plummeting. This is a serious issue. It shows how far China is willing to go to wipe out the Uyghurs. With this in mind, the destruction and reign that Beijing has had over the Uyghurs makes us question what are the implications it can have for other minorities in China. What does this genocide show to us that can occur to others? Natural resources are also a big part of the region, primarily what they produce being cotton oil and natural gas. Xinjiang was once a big part of the Silk Road. Today it also continues to be a big trade link to Europe and Central Asia for China. Without access to, and sadly the forced labor of the Uyghurs, to the production line, many U.S. and other foreign companies would miss out on a large portion of their supply chains. So, what is currently being done? Well, many countries have made moves in hopes China will halter the genocide. By pushing China, they hope they can make China change its mind. For example, US, Canada, and the UK have proclaimed the sanctioning of many Chinese officials linked to the abuses. Many governments have banned imports from the region or fined companies whose supply lines include Xinjiang productions. The UN has asked China to release Uyghurs who have been detained wrongfully. China's historical answer to all of this is, of course, that the world is meddling in its internal affairs. Finally, I'd like to touch upon some policy recommendations for the issue. I believe that further dialogues need to be started within the UN for China to finally recognize what a great issue the human rights abuses are for the rest of the world. I think that if all UN countries were to impose a total ban on companies buying from Xinjiang, and while this may seem extreme, and costly due to how many countries worldwide use Xinjiang supplies. It is only then that China will see the movement against them at this larger scale and begin to care and stop their abuses. It is not wise to start any military confrontations or suggestions of war against China. However, by cracking down on trade and increasing tariffs and really targeting the exports which hit the states where they most benefit from, and cutting off the supply and demand, they will finally realize the world's anger with their mistreatment of the Uyghurs. Lastly, once that these tariffs are recognized, then on the condition that US lowers its tariffs, then China must lessen its hold on the Uyghur people. Overall, by pushing for worldwide recognition of the Uyghur genocide and its many implications and problems, we are able to start more dialogues to ensure human rights across the globe and make a more peaceful and just society.